Hello and welcome back to the Motor Maestro channel. This channel is focused on motorcycle safety, mostly by way of slow speed operations, because that's where most of the motorcycle accidents happen, 15-20 miles an hour and below. Most of the videos we do here are the practice sessions that are run here in Melissa, Texas. But sometimes I like to share the info and experience that I have and get from the installs that I do. I've done a couple of installs in terms of exhaust, tab performance exhaust tips, and motorcycle drop guards on my ultra limited bike. Today I'm going to put the motorcycle drop guards on the Road King that I have, and probably this video will be slightly more in depth. Since I have a slight bit more experience from the last time I installed the drop guards, it won't be hopefully as long of a video of the installation itself, but I wanted to cover any of the possible little gotchas or whatever that I might encounter. So enough of the introduction to the video. Let's just get to the install. So I thought I'd record a shot of the parts as they come out of the box. Nice and shiny chrome, look pretty good. These are the guards for the engine bars, engine drop bars, whatever you want to call them, the bars that go around the engine. Here's the guards for the back, the bags, the baggers, whatever you want to call them. And then here's the primary cover. It bolts on under the primary. Those bolts up there. I thought I'd toss this business card in there, just so you know if you have a desire to get something, to get these drop guards, motorcycledropguards.com. There you go. And I'll walk you through the process of how these are installed. So the first thing I wanted to do is give you a close-up of what's already on this bike, already on this Road King. A while back I installed these collars, these drop guard collars. They're obviously, well, maybe not so obviously, but they're a little cheaper, a little less expensive. I think they're machined custom. I honestly don't know the person I got them from. Well, actually, I've purchased two different types of these collars. One was a guy that I know machined them, I think, in his own shop or something. But I know that this particular set was purchased locally here. Anyway, it's just a ring that bolts around the bar, and you can see where the wears off here. Protects the bar from getting scratched, and this is fine. So these collars work. There's only one difficulty I have with them, and that is if you don't have them, I guess, appropriately tightened, or even if they are appropriately tightened, regardless, 2 or 3 times these collars have slid for me. One time, I think it was the ones in the back. It actually slid way up here. It was dangling, which it does no good. It defeats the purpose of these things. It might have been the fact that I maybe hadn't tightened them properly. But actually, originally, when I put these on, I had some hard rubber around the bar, between the bar and the collar, thinking that, or hoping that the rubber would provide a little traction, a little grip on this bar, and prevent it from slipping. But I don't know if I just didn't install them properly, or don't know what it was. Somebody later said you need to have these collars directly on metal to metal, basically, for the best grip. And so I did that. It's still slipping a little bit, and it's wearing down. I mean, not quickly, but that's only, I don't know, 7 or 8 months of use. I do a lot of slow speed exercises and practicing, and I mean, yeah, this obviously means it's dropping on that, and that's what happens when you're doing slow speed. But anyway, maybe these don't last as long, I don't know. Again, they're cheaper, so they work just fine. I would never talk negatively about these, but for my purposes, I decided to go with a kind, well, now we'll talk more about them. So here's the drop guards, from motorcycledropguards.com. You already saw the picture of them coming out of the box, but the biggest benefit to these, well, two biggest benefits really, is the curve to the bar, or the curve to the guard, so it curves with the bar, less chance of it slipping around, but even more so, the less chance of it slipping around comes from this rubber that is specifically made for these drop guards, and it conforms to the inside of the drop guard, and number one, it keeps it likely from slipping, and well, I guess that's probably the biggest part of it. It provides an excellent grip that keeps these from moving around, and I could show you the finished product on my other bike, but let's let that be a little bit of adventure here. So as you can see, it's just a matter of wrapping or putting these clamps around the bar. Well, anyway, I just wanted to give you a quick summary. I do have these colors in place, which, and actually that brings me to another point. One step I will skip in this install is when you're installing these drop guards on the bar, you have to know where to put them. And the best way to do that is to take maybe a towel or something that'll protect the bar, because you don't want it scratched already if you don't need to. Take a towel, put it under where you think the bar is going to hit. Same back here on the bag. Put a towel or something down there, cardboard towel, whatever. And basically gently and controlled, lay the bike down on its side, and where this bar contacts the ground is where you install the drop guard. Of course, you can't do that while it's laid down, so what you end up having to do, and this is what I did, is as it was laid down, I put a little masking tape around where, on the top part where it wasn't contacting the ground, some masking tape up there directly opposite, so I'd know where to install. Well, I did it for these as well, but for my, when I got these drop guards before. Anyway, I put a little marker there so you know where to attach these things on that one and on this bar. Pretty simple. Well, I'm going to skip that on this one, obviously, because these are, from what I recall, placed pretty correctly. They're fairly accurate placement. So all I need to do is take that off, remember where it was. You know what, I might even do some masking tape just to make sure I put them in the right spot. It can't hurt to do that. I have the colors on here, so I don't have to actually put the bike on the ground, but let's do some masking tape. That'd be the easiest way to do this. And of course, I forgot to mention, when you're going to do the other side, same thing. You would want to lay the bike down the other side and check it, unless, and I don't have this special gift, but unless you have the ability to almost exactly estimate from the front of the bike, when you have drop guard installed there, estimate exactly where it would be on this side. Some people have that ability. Yeah, I don't, so there you go. So I grabbed a little roll of masking tape and put some tape on the bar to signify where the color is coming off. And I'll give a close-up in a minute. But like I said, this is just a way to try to keep the placement of where the drop guard should go. I think I forgot to mention, really the only tools you should need for this install is an Allen key that, I don't remember the size of it, that's unfortunate, but an Allen key that fits these bolts, the bolts in the motorcycle drop guards. Pretty easy to do. So I'll show you how I use the painter's tape to indicate where to put the drop guards. I actually ended up moving a little bit, but what I did was put a little bit of, well, basically ripped off a little tape, tried to use the straight edge of the tape. Originally, 2 minutes ago, it was sitting on this line. You can kind of tell where that drop guard was grabbing. Anyway, what I was going to suggest is when you have the bike on its side on the ground, find the point that it connects, that it touches the ground, and then on the exact opposite, mark with that straight edge where it is. That's what I was getting at. Pretty simple. And once I line up, or once I have the drop guard lined up on the, how do I say this? So once I have this undone and I put that, you know what, we'll get there. I'll show you. So here's the front, the engine guard, drop guard. Took the clamp off of it, the back clamp. See, there's the rubber there, and actually I forgot to mention this, the clamp here has rubber inside of it. All of that's meant to grip it and keep it in place. So this is what I was talking about. If you use this tape as a marker, and as long as you try to keep this rubber straight in there, it's kind of hard to do with the camera in my hand. But anyway, I'm just illustrating here. Place that against the bar, and where the edge of that tape is where the middle of the drop guard should line up. And of course, the middle is exactly where the holes are. So basically, line that up there, and then I have to put this guard down. But then you, of course, put the clamp right there. Pretty simple. So that the technique of using the tape to mark where you would have the drop guard centered on is the same general technique for all four of them. I'm not gonna, I don't think I'll include that on every one of them. You get the idea. So I'm gonna line it up on that tape, on the edge of that tape. And then, of course, as I'm looking at this drop guard from the side, you really want the part where the drop guard connects, touches the ground, probably to be as close as the center of this thing as possible. Not a huge deal because there's a lot of surface area here, but actually, I'm going to take that back. It might be useful to bring it up just a little bit. I don't know. I've actually had the experience of, unfortunately, the experience of when you drop the bike and you forget to let go of the bars and it actually rolls over a little bit. I don't know, that's something I'll have to think about before I bolt it on. If it rolls over a little bit, of course you want the protection a little higher. I might do that. Not much higher. So I'm only going to move it up by maybe ½ an inch or so, tops, not even that, ½ of an inch. Because there's no way you can scratch this down below. That's just not going to happen. But if the bike rolls over a little bit, I mean, I might scratch these. But anyway, you put it up where you, set it up where you think it works best. It would be fine if you just center it here. Because in reality, if it does roll over a little bit, it's just going to get to the end of this, so it's not a huge deal. Whatever works for you. So I'm lining it up now where I think it should go. Of course, hugely important. So I want to make sure that this edge is fairly even with the ground, just to keep the scratching part somewhat equidistant between the two bolts. Yeah, I'm probably being a little picky on this. There's no need to be, but might as well make it look decent, right? That's the whole point of purchasing these is not only are they durable, but they look good. So anyway, that's probably the process I'll use for both of these bars. Just get it done. Forgot to mention there's another tool that you're likely going to need, easier to do this. There's a nut on the clamp, 2 nuts actually on each clamp, the back clamp. You can use a combination wrench and just hold that steady, hold the hold the combination wrench steady and then spin the Allen wrench underneath. But it's so much easier. Like if you're like me and have these small, crazy little Allen wrenches, hold that on the nut, hold that steady, and then use your wrench to tighten up top. There it is. Use your wrench, the socket wrench to tighten up top there. Anyway, just wanted to mention that. I forgot about that tool you'll need. And you're not going to hurt this clamp or this bar by wrenching down tight. And with the size of this Allen wrench, I don't have a whole lot of leverage. So I am holding it on to the bolt down here, and then on this side, having the wrench on the nut. I am going to go down as tight as I can go, because I do not want this drop guard moving around. It shouldn't, but I'm going to wrench it down extremely tight. I did this on my last one too, so you're not going to hurt this bar. Now if I had a big Allen wrench that had like way out here and a whole bunch of leverage, I don't know this is a really hard bar, really strong bar, but I don't have that, so as hard as I can wrench these down, I think that'll help keep these in place. Okay, that front one's done. And the nice part about these is that the drop guard itself is so long that I know I measured, well, kind of measured where to put them. I don't think it's a huge deal. There's so much space. It's really just a matter of, at this point, aesthetics. Is it balanced with the other side? So you got the front one on. Let's move to the back one. I forgot about this. So to get these rings on, these collars, these old collars, I actually take the bags off. But that's not really part of the motorcycle drop guard installation, so I'll just kind of fast forward through all that for my own installation. I got so focused here on the task that I completely forgot to talk through it. So one of the first things I had to do with this back drop guard is much the same as the front ones. Line it up so that it's the middle of the drop guard is where the bar would touch the ground. Of course, a little bit of trial and error to try to get it lined up properly and whatnot. A lot of that got cut out of the video. There's just no point in doing that. So now I have both the drop guard covers, drop guards for the bars installed, the front for the engine guard, the back for the baggers. What I wanted to show you was the importance of this primary cover. And I'll show you how it goes on, how it's installed. So trying to get the best angle for this. Here's the bottom view of the primary cover. And you can see I have dropped this a few times, quite a number of times actually. But I don't know if you can see from this angle, this scratching, scraping, and honestly it's not a huge deal because it's not as visible if you're looking at it from where you're normally standing looking at a motorcycle. This is not going to be very visible. Part of the problem is though, this maybe gets deep enough or you hit it hard enough, I guess, the primary cover, where something can bend and then you'll have oil leaking, and that is definitely not good. So the solution is to have this primary cover be sitting right here, bolts on with these two bolts here, here. Obviously remove these and use the bolts that came with this kit, attached it right there, and this protects that. So yes, I do have a little bit of a scratch forming there, but I'm going to protect the structural integrity of this with that drop guard. Just wanted to show that. I'll get that on. So I have the primary guard installed. I'll give you a better view of it here. Try to get the best angle to show you how it protects and covers. You can see the two balls that I installed, one on the other side. Here's that scratch, and it's now basically covered by this drop guard. And there's no way, this is hardened steel, there's no way you're gonna have a problem with that. So there you go. These are tightened fully. I had a little Allen wrench, which I'm tugging on pretty hard. There you go. And I'll show you what it looks like when it's leaned over on the ground, and how that probably happened, that scratch probably happened as a result. All right, so I've leaned the bike over that side just to show how these things protect. And yeah, I could just put them straight on the garage floor, and they're gonna get eventually scratched up, but I figured, what the heck, might as well put some, I scratch them if I don't have to, but whatever, anyway. Oh, there's no gap there. That drop guard cover is there, and it's well placed. Same with this one. But the most important part is, of course, that primary cover, and you see how very little space there is between the primary cover and the ground. And I don't know if you can tell, that primary cover, the guard is barely touching the ground. And I can't see the scratch anymore, obviously it's the wrong angle, but the scratch is really right about where the guard itself is touching the ground. So that's a huge saver. That's a huge, almost an insurance factor. Anyway, wanted to show the bike over on its side and how these things help quite a bit. And now the left side, drop guard, for the engine guard and for the baggers, and the primary is done. Have it on the, working on the right side of the bike. Same thing, front and back. Again, I'm gonna have to take the bags off, this bag, to be able to get my collar off, but that's not part of the drop guard installation, so I won't worry about including that. And interestingly enough, I did find that using the tape to mark where I wanted to put the drop guard helped a little bit, but yeah, it's up to you if you want to use it. It's because what you end up having to do is, once you get it on, it moves around a little bit. Regardless, it's up to you. I find it a little bit useful, but so as a forewarning on this right side, if you happen to have the soft brake installed, which is a device that brings the pedal down a little bit to the rear brake to make it a little more comfortable. And I have I think this is a 3-inch extension. This actually kind of gets in the way of installing these things, but you just work through it. That's just a forewarning. If you have the normal Harley brake pad or rear brake, I think it's up a little further. So it occurred to me, you can kind of see that this is the bottom part of the ring that points to the ground. The collar points to the ground. You can probably tell very little wear on it. It tells you something about my riding so far. I don't always do as extreme leans on the right hand. Well, I do extreme leans on the right hand side, but maybe I don't take it as far and drop it as much. I don't know. Interesting metric. I got a little focused here on the task and forgot again to talk over what I was doing. But to be honest, there wasn't much more to describe here. Much the same as the other side. A lot of the time is spent, well, number one, figuring out where you want it placed on the bar. As I mentioned a couple of times in the video, it's not hugely important. It's mostly probably about aesthetics, but it's also about placing it in a position where it's high enough that it won't, if your bike rolls over to the side, it won't really hurt the top of the bar. But anyway, just here, sorry, also mentioning that trying to work with the tools and hold the drop guard on at the same time, it got a little interesting.
to say the least.
All right, the left side is done, and it looks like it's hopefully properly placed. And now I'll move to the back side. One side went a little, maybe a little quicker than the front left side, but I got that rear brake in the way, so it was a little aggravating. Oh well, anyway, that's just life. This won't move, won't be a problem to leave off. Like the other side. And it makes it easier on me.
As I mentioned, when I installed the left side bag drop guard, it's not necessarily to take off the bags to be able to install the drop guard. I did it because the colors I removed, it was a lot easier to get those collars off. Now, that being said, taking the bags off actually does make it easier to put the new drop guards on, because as I showed with the crescent wrench, not the crescent wrench, the ratchet wrench, it's a lot easier to hold the Allen wrench steady and spin the ratchet to get the nut on the bolt. Well, you can't do that if the bag's in the way. So just a quick tip. It's actually, if you do have bags, it's probably easier to take them off to get the rear, the bagger drop guards installed. At this point, I had finished putting on that right side drop guard for the baggers, but then I scooted back to the garage door to see how well they were visually balanced between the left and right side. But then I remembered that I had to adjust. I had already done the left side. The right side was a little lower. So I was readjusting it now because I wanted the drop guard just a little higher. Not much. I think it's like 1/8 to 1/4 inch tops higher. Basically to take account for the possibility of the bike rolling over more on its side, as I mentioned earlier in the video. Sometimes with these back drop guard baggers, with the back bars, the crash bars or the drop bars, they have in my experience, they have a tendency to drag a little more and get scratched up if you're pulling your bike over on accident. Generally speaking, the idea is if your bike's gonna fall over while you're doing your slow speed exercises, you step off and let go of the handlebars and just let it slide or come to a stop. Don't hold on to them. Well, that takes practice, and sometimes in the recent past I've forgotten to let go and it goes a little further over on its side. Well, that to prevent too much damage from that, that's why I ended up sliding up just a little bit to try to keep the upper bar from touching the ground. And here we go again, just trying to get them visually balanced. Trial and error is all that is.
So I finished up the installation of the motorcycle drop guards on my Road King. They seem to be placed correctly, and I guess the fear of dropping the bike should no longer be there. It's not been there in a long time, but it's good to have those on there. Thanks for joining me. Any questions or clarifications that you guys might have, toss them in the comments. I'm no expert on installing those things, but now that I've done it a couple times, who knows? Maybe I can have some insight into any questions. But there you go. We'll talk to you later.